Okay, for the benefit of the recording, we've read the governor's pandemic proclamation and explained why we're doing this in Zoom and that everybody's invited. And the next order of business would be a roll call.
Okay. Mike Elliott.
I'm here.
Mina Hall.
I'm here.
Irwin.
I'm here.
Roger J.
I'm here.
And I'm here. Okay.
Okay, the agenda said this is a point for public comment. I don't see anybody other than the village staff and members, so let's assume there's none, and it's time for your memory test. We had a meeting long ago on August 5th. And we've got some minutes that everybody's had a chance to look at. Any corrections or additions to the minutes of the August 5 meeting? August.
If there's no corrections, I'll move to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Second, anybody?
I second.
Excellent. Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. And we'll move on to our action item 1. Since the last meeting, I managed to watch by video the village board meeting, which was very efficiently run and done quickly. But I didn't see that they took any time with the other things that are going on to talk about this working session or joint session with the plan commission yet. Anybody have any thoughts or information on status?
This is Jenny. I think I've been, we're waiting to do a strategic session with the board, and that was pushed off from last couple weeks ago. And so I thought it prudent that the board meet and then we have the joint session. But I mean, if you think that it would be helpful to meet before that, I didn't bring it up with the board because I assumed that you would meet as a board and then meet with the a joint, just so that the board is more on track with where we think we're going forward with the relationship with the EDC.
Yeah, my concern is just that it doesn't drop off the charts, that we continue. I think it's still a very worthwhile thing to do. I think that I sent technology problems. I think I sent an email to the chairman of the Architectural Review Planning Commission and asking her what her thoughts were on this. But it sat in my outbox, I guess, for a couple of days. Maybe I thought I CC'd everybody on that, just saying to her, you know, what do you think about doing this? Did anybody else see it?
Nope, not to my recollection.
Okay, well, I've got, you know, I'd like to draw the chairman, I think her name is Mary White. We've got some time to do that, and, you know, get their reaction, because we can do that one-on-one as long as we don't have too many people from the EDC or the plan commission involved in that discussion. So,
Roger, what is the status, of the planning commission? There was an after Jim left, wasn't there an interim plan? And now we haven't hired a permanent.
No,
Yeah.
can I take that, Jen?
Yeah, great.
No, we haven't hired a permanent, though we've had the job posting out for a little over a month before I arrived, and I'm just starting finishing my second month now. So it's been 90 days and we've had 3 people apply, and by the resumes being submitted, none of them appeared to have read the job posting. I don't know how to be more gentle than that, but Right now, we continue to use through an intergovernmental agreement, Mundaline for our code enforcement, as well as our planning and zoning planning review. By all accounts from staff as well as the community who put in paperwork that have to go. We have a hearing before the PZB next week. Mundaline's done an exceptional job, and so we're pretty comfortable with what they're doing. But the search, Pam, the search continues. I share that with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
I get the sense that the zoning board is more of a reactive body, and that they, for example, they haven't had meetings for some time. And I'm assuming it's because there are no appeals that are pending. So. Getting a
No,
sense,
you're accurate, Roger. There hasn't been much to go before for variances or anything of the like.
so I don't know if their mindset is such that, you know, they're ready to talk about whether the plan as it presently sits is appropriate going forward. And I'd hope that they have some kind of meeting within their own group and talking about their ideas about what role, if any, they have in setting that going forward.
I think if I could offer this to the EDC, Jenny brings up the point of the workshop between the village board and myself. I sat there and at that meeting expressing the desire to have some objectives put in front of me, so not only I could be held to account, but also know where I have to take staff and the functions of the village in which direction, what do we want to achieve. And so we had initially looked at within the next 2 weeks to have a meeting, but COVID hit again, and that kind of put us on our heels. We want to make sure we're cautious in how we approach that. The majority of the board feel that a face-to-face discussion workshop, which will be at least a one-day workshop facilitated with a professional facilitator, they all felt that the face-to-face and the give and take would serve us better than to be in an environment where we were doing it across Zoom. I know the topics that we are looking to hit include community development, economic development, village operations as far as delivery of goods and services, and finance. So the topics related to economic development and the objectives of the board and where the board wants to see the policy go pertaining to economic development and community development, I feel will certainly be aired at that meeting. Discussion about the comprehensive plan and how we use that going forward. Well, I'm pretty certain will be part of that meeting, because you can't talk about community development and economic development without talking about the comprehensive plan as it exists, or should it be amended, or should it be, should we just continue forward? So full circle back to Jenny's point, the meeting, I believe, is critical to setting the tone, not only for staff, but for what all the committees and commissions do going forward. It's sort of the compass. So now we're looking to potentially do it the first week in October, depending on where the numbers fall. We are sending out another survey to the board members to identify a couple dates in October. So there's a sense of urgency in getting it done.
I don't think we could ask for much more at this point, really, given the constraints of COVID and whatnot. So that sounds good. Anybody else, any thoughts?
Has there been any independent inquiry for information on the South TIF over the last month or 2 months?
Are you asking me, Jay?
Anybody? Yeah.
I will tell you, I've got a flurry of meetings with developers. The gentleman who owns the greenhouse in Ballybunion has asked to sit down and have a meeting the second week in September about opportunities to develop there. I've had 2 inquiries regarding the South 15, south of the Sunset Grove. And one of those firms I am meeting with a week from tomorrow. It's a realtor out of Naperville working with a developer. We've just also been contacted about a residential development off of right next to the subdivision where President Jacob lives, off of Midlothian and 60, just coming south of there. Pretty sizable development. The realtor approached us about marketing that property up in that area as well. So it's been a number of calls from developers. I've had plans shared with me for past discussions of that South 15. And I'm going through those now to kind of take a look and formulate some questions I may have.
So that's great. I mean, it sounds like those numbers are far exceed the trailing 12 months.
Jay, let me jump in too. I forwarded some of the plans from Brian. Remember when he spoke with us?
Kavanaugh, Kavanaugh, the CBRE guy.
Yeah, but I just forwarded some of that just to keep Greg up to speed, because Brian keeps circling back with me, and you know, I wish we had more to tell him. I told him to kind of hang tight until we figure out, you know, we have a brand new village manager, we have a brand new board member, that to, you know, hang tight a little bit longer on that South 15 site. And then he also represents that other site off of 22 in Old McHenry.
Right.
But I forwarded some of that information to Greg, which was a lot of information to digest, but I figured just to kind of get him up to speed on some of the stuff that we talked about. And also that kind of prompted us even looking at some of the comprehensive plan, current existing zoning, and kind of expectations of those properties related to what our original ideas were and how maybe that we may need to change our approach based on, you know, the environment now in terms of people, you know, after post-COVID, plus kind of just the trends of shopping habits and the fact that IDOT will not let us have an ingress and egress right off of the 8353 where we originally anticipated traffic. And without that, then huge retail is out of the question, specifically on that South 15. So I was just bringing Greg up to speed, which is why. So
Was that South 15 project that vertically constructed townhomes, a little bit of retail, and
Yes.
the
Right.
park, that kind of issue? What were the square footage of? What are the square footage of what they're representing for those townhomes? 3,000 square feet plus or minus?
Oh, he was doing much more condensed, which I thought never would pass. But it was, I mean, he was thinking like 200 plus units, which I didn't even dig deeper when I saw the number of units. I was like,
But
okay.
the individual unit, were they in the 2,000 to 3,000 square foot space? Unknown.
I don't know. I'm assuming that's probably sounds about right based on the size of the acreage left.
Okay.
Okay, anything else, at least for now, about the workshop session with the village board? Sounds like we're making appropriate progress and hopefully it's going to happen. And we can all continue to watch and prepare.
Right. And you know, the discussion we just had about a wider variety of residential housing in the village, I guess that feeds into our next topic of the resident survey. What the residents are looking at and what they need.
Yeah, so that was going to come up as in our discussion with the board. So we're kind of holding off to get the temperature of the board before that gets submitted. So that's on hold as well as everything else. So
I don't think anybody's opposed to the survey itself, but the questions on the survey, should it be one survey or two surveys? And I think that's some of the information that the body is looking to toss around amongst themselves first.
Yeah.
Well,
To the
this is the
extent
first
that we're
time I'm hearing
the-
about that I remember two surveys. Greg, maybe you could embellish on that. We're talking about
They're talking about potentially, or there has been discussion, I shouldn't speak for the body, but there has been discussion of taking some of the questions that are in the existing survey and applying them to another survey to serve another purpose, not to do with economic development. It's rather than duplicating, trying to capture some data that will complement another fact-finding mission, if you will.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the list of brokers and developers, an ongoing process or what?
I guess what we talked about last meeting was, we did prepare a list of developers and brokers in Lake County and Cook County. And we talked about trying to fold that into more of a social media platform. So we're not, we're kind of, keeping in touch with the broader business community. We talked about LinkedIn, and I know that went before the village board too, whether we could use that as a social media platform. And I don't know where that stands. I think that is a good idea to kind of incorporate this list of brokers and developers into something like our communication through LinkedIn, so we get a broader media voice for what we're doing. I don't know where that stands.
But if you're asking Pam about LinkedIn, myself and Mike met 2 weeks ago. It seems like it's been forever too, just every time, the time lapse. But it was a great meeting, Mike. I appreciate the opportunity to sit down, and we had some really, really good discussion on economic development, community development overall. I brought back the LinkedIn suggestion or recommendation that the EDC has been made, and I shared it with President Jacob, who is a supporter of it, believes that it's a good tool that we can use to get information out to the community, another portal, if you will. My intent is to meet with the communications team after the next board meeting. We meet every Wednesday after the village board meeting, and then begin to move that project forward for us to have a LinkedIn presence for the EDC.
Yeah, I think that's excellent, Greg. I think that's a way to kind of combine, this list that we put together of local brokers and developers, but with our own contacts, our own business contacts. So we kind of broaden that out and really get a wider sweep, in terms of our communication.
Yeah, and I think that's why, I agree, Pam. And that's why Jenny wanted me to meet with Mike to make sure that, I had questions of Mike of what the reach is and, how we could do this. And we take existing information we already have and disseminate it through LinkedIn. It wouldn't be a duplication. It'd be actually building off of what we already have and using it through another portal, and develop a database for distribution, a listserv, as I used to call it. I don't know if they still call it anymore. That's my age speaking. So, but yeah, it's I think there's little doubt that it's a valuable asset that we can use, and it's certainly at our disposal at nominal cost, if any.
Yeah,
We
no,
had some
I'm sorry.
there was some exchange this week about the videos that we have, and now we've got 4, maybe 5 videos that are in usable form, and LinkedIn to me would be an ideal way to say, talk to somebody about how long ago it is to run your business. But we're at the stage where we need to push the stuff out. We've got it, and it's in usable form.
So I'll commit, and I'll follow up with Jenny on it as the liaison as to our activity. But if there's no exception or no concern, then we'll look to move that forward. I'll begin the discussions at our next communication staff meeting.
Great.
Greg, one more thing on that. I'm happy to spend some time with the communications team or even with Vicarious if you're going to engage them on this, if you think there's value in that. So happy to share my thoughts that I shared with you with them. So just let me know.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mike. I might ask you to jump in on our meeting.
Perfect.
Okay. Report on EDC activities in the last year. Pam has done a nice job of stringing together a list of the things that we've done or been involved with. Anybody else have any thoughts or chance to look at that and react?
You know, one thing I wanted to say, Roger, I see, you know, we need to, we adopted the work plan in September of 2020. And I know we did a quarterly update. That date has to be wrong. It's also September of 2020. We did a follow-up report to the board, didn't we, about our activities? And can we find out what that date was? Because that's just not correct. I'm sure we did something after September of 2020.
Anybody have any recollection?
Feel like, yeah, I have no, time is distorted in COVID. It could have really been September. I don't know.
Denise may have that date because we did do a follow-up with the board about our activities. We probably could do another one, a wrap up from the year when we develop our strategic plan for this coming year. You know, we could kind of do a wrap up of what we accomplished, you know, this last year.
It struck me when I looked at the list that the list was not so much accomplishments in a concrete sense as it was activities that the EDC undertook, places where the EDC has been a nudge or a process pool where we've got ideas and we push them up to the people who can take some activity. That in my mind is more the goal than to actually accomplish concrete changes in the village's code or anything like that. So on that level, there's a lot that the EDC has talked about and passed on to the trustees and village staff. I think that list did a really nice job of reminding us, if nothing else, that we've gotten through a lot of things. Are we at a point where we should just wrap that up and send that out as a memo to the village trustees?
I think that would be a good idea. Again, we have to correct that date. We'll have to find out, maybe Denise knows when we did our last report back to the Board of Trustees. I'm sure it was by the end of last year, but I don't know. I mean, so I'd like to correct that date. That's in the first bullet point.
So can I just jump in? So just playing devil's advocate. So are we trying to justify ourselves? This is why we're trying to do this. I mean, is it just another piece of doc paper that we want the board to read? I'm just trying to think of, I mean, it sounds like we're really grasping at trying to justify our existence with this document for me, because I really feel like it's been, like you said, I mean, we have not had much economic development activity. I agree that we've nudged, but I personally anyway, so I'm personally thinking like, well, why are we doing this? And please tell me I'm wrong, and maybe I'm being a cynical person here, but I just need to know, like, why are we throwing more papers at them that they're already too busy to, you know?
Well, I think it's good to have,
Go ahead, Pam.
Mina, I think it's good to have a record of, you know, I think a lot of these activities are probably in the category of keeping things going over COVID, but also, you know, how we initially, you know, worked through a number of our strategic goals from last year and started to develop a framework for the EDC, you know, things like developing the microsite, you know, for the EDC on the Long Grove website, things like developing a flow chart, which Mike Elliott worked on for new businesses, things that we need to build on, you know, relationships that we made, like county partners and different contacts, the International Council of Shopping Centers, we made a contact there. I think it is important to have a record of how this all went last year so we could start building on it. I think you're right in a way, Mina. There is a certain self-serving aspect to it. But on the other hand, I guess when you have a plan that you put before the board, I think you do need to follow up a little bit and say, well, this is how we, this is what we did in terms of the plan. And, do we need to, look at it for next year and see how we need to build on it or adjust it, amend it, but I like the idea of reporting on what we've done. I don't know how everybody else feels.
Can I ask?
Let me give you my input on that. I agree with Mina. I really think we should concentrate on the future, not the past. I mean, the board has all the minutes. And everything we've done a lot of things. We made a lot of contacts. We worked real hard. I think we focused in on, the development, what needs to be done with whether it's residential. And I think we should put our efforts to going forward on our strategic plan and working with the board on that. And I think we did a lot of things, but I'd rather spend, our time is limited. I'd rather spend it on future. So that's my 2 cents.
Can I ask a question? And I'm drawing off past experiences. And maybe Jenny knows, but is there a requirement that an annual report be submitted by the committee? No?
I believe there is.
Yes.
There is, because for the most part, every place I've served in this capacity, there's been a requirement of appointed commissions, committees and boards to submit an annual report of activity. So that way there's not just constant reporting, constant paper generation, but a year-end recap and all those benchmarked against what you guys are describing right now, goals and objectives for the year of whatever your strategic plan is, to see the progress that's been made. So I was just curious because I haven't seen any of those reports from any of the commissions, and they could be someplace. I'm still digging things out, but so that's why I asked the question. I think the board needs. I certainly, from a perspective of the CAO, need to get a sense of where the commissions and committees are, so I'm not replicating work or we're going in different directions that are contrary to what those commissions, boards, and committees are doing. And then for the sake of the board, they would, out of all deference, they need the ability to turn around and look at the accomplishments that have taken place, but not to have it redundant and have it repeated 50 times in the course of the year. I'd certainly agree with that. So I just offer that up.
I think there are 2 things going on here that might be worth reminding ourselves about. One is the joint meeting that the EDC had with the village board some time ago, where my perception was that the EDC was not looked on as something that should be telling the village what to do. That somehow it was stepping out of its zone of obligations or powers or whatever, when it was pushing to do this and that and the other thing. And some of the things that the EDC members were pushing for were, in fact, kind of over the top at that point. But my perception, and I've been sitting in on the village meetings and trying to keep up, my perception is that the attitude has changed considerably with respect to the way that the trustees look at what the EDC is doing, and that they do perceive it as a source for gathering information and passing it on, and not as any kind of a rival group that's trying to tell the board of trustees what they should or shouldn't do. And so I think that on that level, we don't really have to worry. To Mina's point, we don't have to justify what we've done. We've done what we've done, and it is what it is, and blah, blah, blah. When I saw Pam's report, the only thing that I reacted negatively to was the word accomplishments being used. And now I realize that part of it is the same thing that Mina just said, which is we don't have to tell people we've had accomplishments. We're doing as well as anybody could in a situation that's really challenging for a bunch of volunteers and a a village that has an economic status, meaning we're all big bedrooms, suburban houses and not much else, economic development's a real challenge to come up with something that's going to really pop money into the village's revenue. So I'm like, let's send them a report. Let's tone it down to make it look just like a report, not anything that says, look at all the things that we've done, but a report that just says, if you're wondering what we did last year, these are the key areas that we looked at. And that's more or less what Pam has done. So those are my thoughts. Anybody else?
I honestly think it would be helpful going into this meeting with the board and Greg to have that in front of us, because I do think the EDC is going to be a big topic of discussion, or a portion of the discussion. So I think it would be helpful. And I never saw this, so I'm not sure if I was left off the list, or if in the week that I didn't have access to email, I just got lost in all the deluge of email. So I would love to see it. And yeah, I think that's great. I think it would be good information to have going into the meeting of the board.
Well, maybe what we do is amend it and just call it activities rather than accomplishments. And again, I'd like to, if we could talk to Denise about when we did the last report to the board. I don't know if it was September of last year or if we did a later one. If we could maybe amend those two areas, and then
I'll get the date for you, Pam.
Okay, we'll just treat it like a report. I think you're right, Roger. We don't have to, we don't have to tout it as accomplishments. It's just a report, our annual report.
And if
I would ask Greg, the future, once if you want annual updates, let us know. So this way we could schedule that and we don't have to question it.
Early on, I think it was my first meeting, members of the board had asked for a calendar that would pretty much lay out, deadlines for a number of things. And I'll put this on the calendar for each of the commissions, committees, and boards. So that way it's simply an annual report, nothing more than that. We get that from the association down in the business district and things of that nature. If I can add, and I'm not trying to talk too much in this meeting, but I think Roger's assessment of where the board is at is 100% correct. I think the board is absolutely sees value in the EDC, sees it as an advisory arm, bringing forth information and offering ideas. And so to Jenny's point, I think economic development will certainly be a topic during our workshop that we will have some strong discussion on, strong in a positive way, in the sense of trying to figure out what's our next steps and what's the prudent approach and what else do we have to do to complement our growth in local economy. So
I just also want to say, I believe that the report kind of tied in with our requests for funding. So that typically, because we always give money, we ask money from the board. And I believe if we're looking at a timeline, we presented what we've done when we were also asking for money. So
good to know.
Has the office complex on Route 22 increased its occupancy?
What are you talking about, Jay? I'm sorry.
The previous empty office building, which is being reconstructed on Route 22. Is that an occupied project now?
no, they just switched, you're talking about the reserve, and we just were
correct.
notified by the owners that they have gone with a different
Property manager.
So I sent out an email to Ari, my contact, to kind of get an update, and I haven't heard back from him, just to see, because he had
Was it called
mentioned,
Weiss Development or something?
Yeah. That's right, thank you. But I hadn't heard back from him, so I'll reach out again, and just because last time I spoke to him, he had said that there was a potential and shift of maybe I think there was a party that was interested in the entire building. And he was not going to speak openly about it until anything was firmed up. And he said he would get back to me. And the last info we had was from Greg saying that they had switched to a different firm. So I don't know what's happening, but right now it's still vacant.
Okay, that leaves us with a strategic plan for the coming year, which the ordinance that created us does say we have to do every year. Any thoughts on how we should go about doing that? Should we just send in the last one and change the dates, or?
With the EDCB, I have a couple of strategic plans from some other units of government that I've been reviewing to see how some of those elements may or may not be applied here. You know, it's one good thing we do as managers, village managers, with our colleagues is we try not to reinvent the wheel, but take what somebody else has used and see if we can incorporate it into something that may be useful for us. If the committee doesn't have a problem, if the commission doesn't have a problem, I could forward a couple of these. One of them is from Highland Park. One of them is from Oak Lawn. And if I could, I believe it's Oak Lawn or Oak Forest. And if I could forward that to you just for your consumption and see how you might apply it. I know Highland Park just redid their strategic plan. They just finished their presentation to the city council over there on it, or yeah, or a committee of the city council. But it was actually pretty basic, but it certainly opened up some activities and gave some direction as to moving economic development forward. I've got the sun shining in me because Jenny still has me up in the attic, so I'm sorry.
Okay, how about this? We get a couple of volunteers, maybe everybody, and agree upon working up a draft within 2 weeks. Not having a meeting in 2 weeks, but having a draft circulated or multiple drafts circulated within the next 2 weeks, taking into account the help that these plans that Greg's willing to share with us will give us in terms of format and in terms of content as well. But to try to hassle something out like this in the abstract without any kind of exchange of drafts beforehand, to me, seems not all that efficient. But other ideas in terms of how we get a strategic plan together for the coming year?
In-person meeting?
Yeah, that would be.
I mean, we could have, yeah, right. Maybe we can have an interim meeting to go through some of these things. You know, I know Jenny did distribute Jim Hoag's suggestions before he left. And I kind of revised them a little bit and passed that around. I mean, that's something we could kind of look at in terms of some of the things that we projected for this last year. And as Greg is saying, some things that Highland Park and these other communities have activities they've gone forward with. I can resend it. I reworked Jim Hoag's suggestions. I can resend that to everybody.
Yeah, I thought it was a great start, Pam. But I also, just out of I would like to, Greg, if you could share with other communities strategic plan, I would appreciate seeing it and just see how it compares and if there's anything we would like to utilize in ours.
Some of it may be absolutely not applicable, but yeah, sure, I'm happy to share it out. I will get it out to the committee within the next day or so.
Thanks. Yeah, I think we have looked in the past, and because Long Grove is fairly unique, it's some of it, like you said, doesn't apply, but I think it's always helpful to look. But yeah, Pam, I thought you did some great work on incorporating Jim Hoag's suggestions.
What's the largest number of people that we can have from the EDC sit down together without having to have a meeting? Is it 3?
I
How
think
many
it was 2.
2.
2? So I can't even say, Erwin, Pam, meet me at, the corner. We'll talk about this on the table and scratch it up. Because just 2 is not all that efficient in terms of, getting a bunch of ideas and working through it. Well, any other thoughts or ideas? This is one thing that I know we're supposed to do, and it took us a couple of meetings last time to work through it. I don't think it was really tricky, but
Well, let's see what Greg sends us, and then we can maybe cobble together some bullet points for discussion. That way, instead of us spinning our wheels, having another meeting, let's kind of cobble together some, everyone pull up a bullet point or 2 and maybe send them in. Is that okay?
that is wonderful. That's exactly my point. I hate meetings where everybody's looking at it for the first time and trying to figure out what to do or not do. So
It would be great if we had it before the meeting of the board. So I think it, as Greg said, that's potentially the first weekend in October. So we would have a meeting of the full board, or the full EDC, probably the Thursday before. But is that going to be too late? Do we need to have a second meeting this month to hone it? Or are we going to be able to pull it together by the first weekend in October?
well, in the regular course of things, our next meeting would be on the 16th of September, which my calendar tells me is Yom Kippur. So that's problematic, probably.
So maybe we just do a Google Doc and share and try to do it outside of meeting. And
Let me
then,
start with that, yeah. And I'll create the Google document and I'll send out the invitations to everybody so that they can look at it, mark it up, and do whatever, edit whatever they want to do. And if we set ourselves a target date to try and get all our comments in by September 15, is that?
I think that's good.
Okay.
We're gonna have a
So that-
document from Highland Park, just to reference what their thoughts are before that.
We're getting it from Greg.
I just sent it out.
All
I
right.
just opened it up.
So what is the date of our meeting in October? Is that,
In October?
The 7th, October 7th.
Yeah.
I wonder if it would make sense to have a special meeting, like maybe the end of September to try to finalize this?
Well, let's see, let's try to get some thoughts together by September 15 or so, and then let's see where we are. Again, I'm traveling too much still, so I'd like to see where we are before wasting an hour and a half of doing, just kind of cobbling things together at that point in time. I think let's see where we are September 15. If we need to hone it further and it would only take an hour or so, that'd be great. Let's have another meeting, but can we table that until we figure that out? Or I know we have to do all the advanced meeting notices and stuff, but let's see where we are before we schedule something, if that's cool.
Yeah, we could get a meeting set up rapidly, like within a week. That's not a huge problem, but I agree. I don't like meetings where everybody just kind of meanders around the generalities, and a Google Doc will let us get specifics, All right. Any other thoughts on this? Any new
Just to
business?
note for Pam's, they do talk about on the Highland Park one, activities and accomplishments. So Pam, actually your word works.
All right. Any new business?
Yeah, Roger, just one item. I think in our
Yes.
village newsletter, I think we need to promote the EDC. There's not a lot of residents who know anything, know about the EDC, and maybe they could supply input, opportunities for us. So maybe that's Greg brought up at the communication meeting. I think we should just have something on a monthly basis about the EDC or quarterly.
And we
That's
are,
Bobby O'Reilly.
yeah, we are constantly looking for additional input on especially our electronic newsletters. We get calls on a weekly basis for a basis for anything that can be added as a contribution. So we would welcome that.
So who wants to volunteer to do the first suggested copy for the next electronic newsletter? Something saying, did you know we have blah, blah, blah. Do you have any ideas? Blah, blah, blah. You want to help the village develop? Blah, blah, blah. As a starting point, soliciting ideas from the village members.
I take that on. I'd be willing to do it, Roger.
You get the idea that Erwin's talking about, right? You just, So Pam will follow through on that, and hopefully the next time we see our electronic copy of the bridge, there'll be something telling our fellow residents about us.
I'd like to bring up something too, is are we still trying to actively fill our empty EDC positions? Because aren't we still missing 3?
I know I just ran into 2 people in the past month and a half, and I recommended they come sit in a meeting and join. A marketing person who does photography. I was hoping to get someone that would edit video.
You're a
get
smart
that
one.
monkey off my
Someone
back.
who will do drones for you.
Yes.
And they politely declined. So yeah, I'm always, anytime my paths cross anybody that seems remotely appropriate, I am still.
How long were they residents for? The people you tried to.
Pardon?
How long have they been residents? Years?
Yeah, like 18 years.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah,
So we're still actively looking to pursue and fill these roles, right? So, I mean, we should be, right? Because don't we need originally, our mandate was 9. I mean, was I wrong on that? And there's 6 of us?
up to 9.
Okay.
But not too long ago I don't know if it was the electronic or the paper, it did say these positions are open, please reach out if you're interested. So
I saw that.
yeah, but I'm trying to tap anybody, and so if you guys have any brilliant ideas.
In this bridge, little bridge notice or whatever, everybody, the EDC, would it be appropriate to say we still, it's an a volunteer opportunity, or should we not do that?
No, I think that's fine.
Yeah, I think so.
The planning commission, or I'm sorry, the architectural commission has a position open as well. To Jenny's point, I think that's absolutely fine.
is the plan commission have all the positions full, or the planning commission?
The PZB does, I believe, Jay, the AC.
Architectural
Commission has one opening.
Yeah, I think that'd be great if you included that in your synopsis or update that you're going to do for the village newsletter. That'd be awesome.
Great, thank you.
Anything else? Anybody? New business, old gossip?
Yeah, I know that Greg CC'd me on this, but we have a new fish market moving into the old Smoke and Teas. So that's exciting. We've got a new
Oh.
coming in. So I don't know, it probably makes sense for maybe the EDC to reach out and welcome them and let them know we're here. So, I mean,
So it's a fish market? Like,
well, I think they do a lot of like ordering online, and I think you can pick up and have delivered from what
So-
I could tell on their website. So
Is it
it's
open?
kind of like a Dorfler's for fish.
Right.
I-
That's a good description.
what's it called? I'll Google that.
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me this, and Greg, do you remember?
No, I'm scrambling too. Thanks, Mina.
Is the
My pleasure.
facility, is the facility
You're
open?
on your toes.
No, not yet.
Not
Is it gonna have, is it gonna have restaurant seating, or is this just a,
No.
No, it's more like Dorfler's, like it's just, you go, I think you can go in and order from, I went on their website, and you can definitely order for pickup, and then you can also have it delivered.
and do they have any is this a single unit operator, or do they have any experience in success in
I
existing
think this
operations?
is their like a second location. Or maybe this will be the first time they have kind of a retail, maybe they were all online before, and this is their first like opportunity for you to go to the location.
Well, it's called the Spring Kitchen. It's going to Long Grove Commons. They're applying for, they currently owns the Soft Wave Fish Company. Fresh fish for home delivery, as well as farmer markets. And the website is I'm sorry, not the Spring Kitchen, Aspiring Kitchen. So it's at theaspiringkitchen.com. And I was just able to find that because I knew Mina was going to ask.
No, that looks awesome. So there's just going to be a storefront that delivers out. It says home delivery service. The Tier of Monkfish. 7 fishes and Italian tradition. This is great. Okay. No, yeah. I mean, Jenny, were you suggesting that someone reach out to welcome them?
I thought it would be nice. I think that the businesses appreciated when we reached out to them.
I will volunteer.
Thank you, Mina.
Bring the lunch.
I will volunteer, but once they're open, if someone could send me contact information just to say, hey, if you need anything, we're here for you, kind of thing.
Happy
can
to
you
do
do
that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
It's nice to see new businesses moving in. It really is. I mean, outside of the downtown area, it's good to see movement. And I was glad to hear that Greg was getting like more nibbles for other locations too.
I'm 2 months now, and the contacts that have been reaching, the people that have been reaching out about development opportunities are, it's to Mina's point, it's exciting that there's interest in Long Grove, because some other communities, I can tell you, are not getting as much interest as we are for a small community. So
Some of them maybe there's a new sheriff in town or perceived sheriff in town.
I keep telling my wife I'm the most popular date at the dance.
Yeah, so I mean, in that, and especially in the development community, that may be a significant, what happens with that is going to be also dealt with resident input, but just that concept, I think, may be positive for the village. And if the actions ultimately turn out well, it can be very positive for the village, depending upon what the will of the people are.
Greg, I just wanted to compliment you. I've had 3 people independently, 1 business owner and 2 residents that have come up to me and thanked me. They said they love you. They've had really positive interactions with you. So thank you.
Oh, it's been good working with the people in this village. It's all been no negatives, all positive.
One other item, just as a follow-up, there was a job fair, I think at Joni's. Were they successful for some of the businesses?
Unfortunately not. You know, when I don't know if I shared the story, but when I first got here, Joni had told me about the hiring dilemma she was in. So we put this thing together and put it together pretty quickly. And we had Starbucks showed up and Sunset Food showed up and some of the businesses down in the district. And it was the same day we had that nasty rainstorm come through too. And not only did they not get activity because most job fairs are slow in activity, but the rain certainly didn't add to it. They had absolutely nobody. The same day, Vernon Hills had done something similar. I got a call from the Daily Herald because there were a number of businesses in Vernon Hills that put together this job fair. And I think they had, from what the reporter told me, 3 or 4 people show up to the entire job fair. And then they asked how ours turned out. So.
Yeah, and I've just been hearing so many people, I'm talking to a lot of trades, and people show up for 2 days on the job and then they just stop coming.
That's all across the country, Jenny. Yeah, and that's why a lot of these extra bonuses that are being awarded for, you know, I mean, I keep joking about the McDonald's fry cook option where they'll give you $500 if you stay, you know, X number of months, but people aren't doing it, and it's just. Yeah, it's no one wants these low paying jobs, unfortunately. And that's kind of, especially in the community that we live, we usually draw from places that aren't long road residents typically, I think, for some of the jobs that we're looking for. You know, and I think that is, I mean, but this is a dilemma all across the country because I'm seeing that all across the country. It's not just, and even my clients with $15, $20 hour per jobs, they're having a hard time filling too, because it's just not sustainable for them to feed their families. So
what do you think is the floor the current, what do you think is the floor for people who
honestly
really want to work hard? I think it's $30 an hour.
20 plus, depending on the type of job, 15. So when Amazon started doing 50, I'm going to go into kind of like my work spiel. When Amazon started doing 15 an hour, every other company surrounding Amazon were losing all of their people because A, the brand name, B, the pay. So, and then when everyone else started raising their hourly wages, then, you know, then it kind of equated again back to normal. But then people started quitting those because, so I'll give you an example. I was talking to someone who said that they had a daughter home from college who was working at a large big box retailer. That's kind of fun, and making $15 an hour. And he was like, great, wonderful. And then like, he was home like a month in, like during the middle of the day, and she was at home. And he's like, why aren't you working? She's like, oh, I quit. And he's like, why? He goes, she's like, I'm making more money working 4 hours a day, delivering for Uber Eats and Grubhub than I worked all 8 hours at, you know, the big box retailer. And that's saying something. If a college student is saying, I am making more money working fewer hours, the dad was like, how do I like argue that? Like, that is smarter decision making. You're making more money, you're, you know, for a lot less hours. How do you combat? And he's like, but I was trying to instill in her the work ethic and the, you know, you keep going along. And she's like, Dad, it's not going to be my permanent job because I'm only here for 3 months in the summer or 2 months in the summer. Why do I care? So then now you equated 2 families, and a lot of it came aware during like the pandemic of working moms who were not making enough to sustain when you've got kids staying at home and someone's got to stay home with them, e-learning them. And it just, a lot of that's why we lost so many women in the workplace, and you can't entice them with $15 an hour. I mean, it's got to be greater. And I think it is. And people talk about, oh, it's all the extra money we gave away. I'm like, no, the jobs reports just came out that said people that the states that even suspended the extra payments earlier are just at a loss for jobs as states that didn't. And so it wasn't that, it was a lot of these people don't have daycare, and daycare costs so much now that someone has to stay home. So it's not that necessarily they're unemployable, they just can't afford to go back to work unless the work was affording them to live a better life and do childcare and whatever. So I know I'm like, I'll get off my soapbox, but it's just kind of what we're seeing across the country, that it's just the trends. And unless something gives, I know it's hard. It's hard for nonprofits because they can't afford to pay $25 an hour as a nonprofit. It really affects, other boards that I used to serve, and it's a challenge.
Might they have to, if that's the supply? and
If that's
demand?
going to be the minimum wages, like in the city of Chicago proper, when the city of Chicago started doing really high minimum wages, it was affecting all the nonprofits, not just the retail businesses, not just the fast food chains. It was the nonprofits that were really being affected also. And so, people that are trying to provide services, and not all of us are lucky enough to be able to do volunteer work like we do, for Long Grove and such. But, there's a lot of families that are struggling. They don't even have cars. And I think that's kind of our biggest challenge, is trying to get people who can work, trying to get them to Long Grove, because we don't have any bus service or public transportation. There is a community in North Carolina, total sidetrack tangent. I was talking to an economic developer there, and they got rid of all their buses, not all, but they created these little like mini rides and it was like affordable, like $1.50 or $2 to get their residents to work. And again, I think it's kind of subsidized somehow, somewhere, but and they saw so much more employment increase with subsidized rides. And it's not a bus because there's not bus lines, and for sure in Long Grove, we don't have that, so, and Uber's too expensive with all the surge pricing right now. It's not worth their pay. So anyway, there's a lot of.
I mean, you go into restaurants who have had terrible times before, and they have demand, but they don't have any kind
They
of
don't have workers.
capacity to service that.
Yeah. It's unfortunate because unless they're working at a Gibson's making $50,000 a year because they're getting, crazy tips, it's about the tips. But when you're working at fast food or, even a snack shop or a diner, the $2-3 people leave them. It's not really, and plus they have the lower minimum wage, lower wage rate to start as a tip earner, because that's how restaurants do it, right? So it's just a problem all across the country. It's not Long Grove specific or this region specific. It is, I'm working all across the country. I'm seeing it everywhere. But I think it's public transportation is our biggest enemy here for some of our lower wage.
Yeah, I
people.
agree. I agree with that.
So on that happy note,
Yeah, it's a challenging world we're all living in, and not getting easier, but we're working on it, right?
I think we're doing the right things, trying to do more economic development, but COVID just really flipped the world on its head. And I really do think that it's impacted. I mean, we've all personally experienced it from supply chains, like stopping all the stuff that we're used to getting, and so I think that, economic development has changed. I feel like strategies for what types of businesses and types of, residential, which I think we're making the right moves. The fact that we're even trying to send out this resident survey. I think it shows that we're trying to be more progressive. Like progressive isn't the right word, but just kind of moving out of the 18th century, moving out of this, over this cute, old, quaint, historic town into this, okay, we're moving into the 21st century and we're actually wondering. The thing that Greg just sent, they listed a whole page of multi-unit residential like housing projects as part of their accomplishments. I'm like, wow, you know what I mean? And that's Highland Park. It's not some
Right,
poor
it's Highland Park,
community.
what it does do though, it creates excitement. And having
It
lived in
does.
Long
And
Grove,
it
in a
creates-
rural area, that excitement, when you bring that in, it should really be
Agreed.
considered. That's not going away. If anything, that's probably growing in a positive direction.
Well, and plus, and I'd say I agree with you, Jay, because the more residents you have, again, that's more rooftops that you can count to get more retail. So it's kind of like a chicken and an egg situation where we are counting so heavily on sales tax revenue generation. You're not going to get that without big box retail, quote unquote, so we think. But we're forgetting that we have a TIF. Right now, the TIF generates farmland assessment ratios versus getting an actual property development on these TIF sites. We can generate revenues that way. We can have TIF funds to, again, further more development. Again, jumping off my soapbox.
Well, I saw a piece on the news a week ago where a gigantic marijuana farm was being opened up in Madison or someplace southwest Chicagoland area. And then they were saying, and they just got a big new prime distribution center or something like that for the same town. All that's irrelevant. Good for them. It's nice. But they had, at the groundbreaking, they had, I believe it was a state senator, a woman who was there. And what surprised me at the very end of the piece was she goes, you know, all these small communities, all these suburban communities have to forget about trying to revive their downtowns because that's the past and it's not coming back. And they have to look at new ways to develop economically other than trying to get a bunch of small mom and pop stores to line their main street. And I just was shocked when I heard a state legislator say that so explicitly, but it also kind of blended with what I heard Bruce say the other day when he talked with us about, you know, if you're going to get retail, it has to have a drive-through next to it. It's a very different world.
Well, and I think it maybe not necessarily does that for us because we are more affluent and we're not so rural, but I agree that some of the rural areas, I mean, you've got to look elsewhere. I mean, in order to get funding and it's, you know, you can only have so many Costco's and Targets and Menards, you know, in a community. After that, you start eating yourselves out, right? And so the fact that we have one Starbucks, I think bodes well that the fact Starbucks does so much good site selection. They don't locate just anywhere. They specifically find the right corners, the right ingress and egress, the number of rooftops, the affluence of the communities. I mean, that's just how retail is. But I agree that we have to stop focus. I mean, that is our only source of revenue. I get that, but that can't be the only opportunity for us. It just can't. I really think we have TIF. We have two amazing TIF areas that hopefully will just get a lot more activity and start booming because that'll help us. I mean, we still have some years left on our TIFs that hopefully we can start turning it around. I'm not surprised by what her statement. I'm surprised that she said it publicly, but I'm not surprised by her statement.
Yeah, I was too.
And yet, you know, I am surprised she said that publicly because, you know, you still have to feel that, you know, there's assets in having a walkable downtown and, you know, having being a destination, things that I think we can build on.
Did I hear a motion to adjourn?
Can I just advise the commission of one thing? This is, I'll preface this by saying this came together very, very quickly. So just to give you a heads up on it, we are planning and again, when I say quickly, I mean as quickly as last night, things finally came together. I approached President Jacob to ask if he would be opposed to me putting together a commemoration for 9/11. It's the 20th anniversary of it. Part of that, you know, I think, you know, I'm a veteran, so it, you know, the date sticks in my mind for a number of reasons. Our President Jacob didn't have a problem with it. I've worked with the fire department. I've worked with the sheriff's department. They're on board with it. So we're looking at September 11th at the fire station, at the flagpole. In a nutshell, we're putting the itinerary together now, but it'll be some remarks from some elected officials, the board for the fire department. I'm reaching out to Congressman Schneider's office, who I have a relationship with, to see if we can get the congressman here. 8 o'clock that morning is the tentative time. It's going to be 8 or 8:30. An announcement will come out. I share it with you because I think a turnout would from as many people as possible would be great. And we'll make sure we communicate it to the commission in email, so you've got the itinerary and kind of know where it's going. We haven't even really fully brought in all the board members yet, because again, this happened really, really, really quick with short notice. So we're scrambling to make it work and put it together, but I think it's important. So
I think it's a great idea.
That is a nice idea, Greg. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So I move to adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a
Second.
second?
Second.
Is there anybody opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Nice seeing everybody again. It's been a while.
Good to see you.
Nice
Good
to
to
see
see you
you.
too.
So Roger, will you send out the link to the Google Doc? Otherwise, I'll create it right now if you want. I'll just create a general one and then we can start adding into it.
Do it.
Oh, good.
Great.
But thank you, Mina.
Fantastic.
All right, let me, I'll start the Google Doc right now and then everyone just start chiming in. Couple bullets by September 15.
Yes.
Thank you, Nina.
Bye all, nice to see you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day. Have a good holiday.
Jen, I meant to ask, how's your mother doing?
Oh, we've been through the ringer. Let me stop recording here.
Yeah. Yeah.